Imagine the times and how Acharya J.C. Bose built all the equipments in the abysmal conditions that existed at the University of Calcutta then, and the country as a whole in the 1890s. And that makes the achievement even more mind-boggling and credit-worthy. Summing up, it could be said that Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose's successes was primarily in two important areas. Firstly, he produced extremely short waves, and secondly, he improved upon Hertz's receiver. By about the end of the 19th century, the interests of Acharya J.C. Bose turned away from electromagnetic waves to response phenomena in plants, and he ventured into another altogether new area, the physics of life, known today as biophysics. His switching to biophysics was really a revival of an old and deep-seated interest in animal life that he had shown since his childhood. As a child, he was fond of collecting all kinds of insects and trapping fish from the stream of his native village of Rarikal in the then East Bengal, and capturing even water snakes, much to the alarm of his elder sister. As a grown-up student of St. Xavier's College, he spent all his cash on animal pets and all his spare time on their housing and care. With such fondness for animal life, it is really a wonder that he took physics at all, in preference to zoology. The reason actually is that the Calcutta University in those days did not offer zoology. Instead, physics was its high point because of the brilliant teaching of Father Lafont, the famous professor of physics at St. Xavier's. But even though J.C. Bose was captivated by Lafont's instructions and his experimentation, he still decided to take to medicine as a career. So great was his passion for the living. Unfortunately, after a year of study in London, he was obliged to give it up because he began to be afflicted with recurrent attacks of fever that he had contracted earlier during a shooting trip in Assam. He was therefore advised to leave medicine and take to science in Cambridge. He finally settled down to physics, mainly because of the educative influence of Lord Raleigh's teachings, which complemented his earlier indoctrination into physics by Father Lafont. After years of research in physics, he was destined to return to his old love, animal life, because he began to notice what appeared to him a complete parallel between the behavior of inert matter on the one hand and living matter on the other. In 1901, J.C. Bose turned his attention to experimenting with bioelectric potentials and movements in plants, believing that the meeting point between the physical, inorganic world and the world of living was to be found in the action of electromagnetic waves. Over the next 30 years, J.C. Bose performed hundreds of experiments on electrical signaling between plant cells in coordinating responses to the environment. His investigations showed that the cells of most plants are excitable. Stimuli such as chilling, heating, cutting, touching, electric stimulus or changes in external osmolarity result in action potentials. In fact, it was thanks to his dedicated research on coherer, the device for detecting radio waves, that he observed that they get tired and show a drop in their efficiency. In fact, it was thanks to his detailed research on coherer, the device for detecting radio waves, that he observed that they get tired and show a drop in their efficiency. He saw a clear parallel between metals and living beings who also get tired. Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose then gradually switched from physics to the study of metals and then plants. Jagadish Chandra Bose's approaches to study the initial responses of plant systems to electromagnetic waves are best seen against the backdrop of what was known during the period from about 1900 to 1932, in comparison to what is known today. Instruments had to be devised by him to record the feeble responses of plants to the environmental cues, be it physical, chemical, mechanical, or electrical. It was 1901 when Acharya J.C. Bose turned his attention to experimenting with modulation of electric signals from plants by touch or other external stimuli using Mimosa pudica and Desmodium gyrans. These electric perturbations later came to be known as action potentials. Acharya J.C. Bose believed that the meeting point between the physical, inorganic world and the world of the living was to be found in the action of electromagnetic waves. J.C. Bose selected plants which gave dramatic responses to stimuli or displayed obvious intrinsic rhythms. When a leaflet of this sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica, commonly called the touch-me-not plant, is touched, its leaves droop, and this goes on over a long distance depending on the strength of the stimulus. Called thigmotropism, or an expression of the touch receptor, the phenomena had J.C. Bose thinking hard about it. And he concluded that these stimulations generate an electric action potential which moves to the motile organ where the response is evoked. Working with this instrument designed by him, called the resonant recorder, he concluded that the collapse in the leaves of the mimosa plant upon stimulation was accompanied by an electrical signal which traveled to the stem. The passage of this electrical signal through the stem in both up and down directions caused the other leaves to collapse. And the electric perturbations markings are made by this writing style, which is made to vibrate at definite frequency in unison with an electromagnetic vibrating strip of steel. It is now known today that the action potential generated in the mimosa plant travels with a speed of about 20 to 30 millimeters per second. What you see here is yet another interesting plant called Desmodium gyrans, commonly called the Indian telegraph plant. This plant is capable of an equally interesting movement that you can observe given some patience on your part. Look here closely. Look at these lateral leaflets. You can clearly see how the lateral leaflets dance. You can see the remarkable spontaneous gyrations of these leaflets. With similar experiments, as with the mimosa plant, Acharya J.C. Bose confirmed the coupling of electrical oscillations and spontaneous movements in the Indian telegraph plant, Desmodium gyrans, which exhibited rhythmic up and down movements of their lateral leaflets. Acharya J.C. Bose compared the electrical pulsations in this Desmodium gyrans with those in the heart of animals using a resonant recorder. Bose conceived further that the plant response to stimulus was associated with an increase in turgor pressure and expansion of cells. Apart from the first studies on spontaneous movements in plants, Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose also wondered how the extraordinarily slow growth of plants could be recorded for studies. The average rate of growth is 100,000th of an inch per second. So, how is this to be measured? It is so very, very small. Acharya J.C. Bose himself devised a delicate instrument which could measure even this slow growth, and he called it crescograph. This is a replica of the crescograph at the Bose Institute in Kolkata. This is where he used to fix the plant specimen and conduct various experiments. This equipment was capable of recording the rate of plant growth automatically at a high magnification of 10,000 times. Plants do not grow in perfect straight line. There are small twists and turns. The growth of the plant is affected by these, and that is why these dots on the smoked glass screen appear curved instead of being straight. Each dot indicates the plant growth in a fraction of a time. The combination of two levers here play an important part in magnifying the extraordinarily slow growth of plants. It is the bent tip of the second lever which marks these dots on the smoked glass screen, which is driven by a clockwork mechanism. To minimize friction, Acharya J.C. Bose arranged the plate in such a way that it moved forward and backward. The smoked glass screen can also move from left to right as well. This device was also used to study the effect of temperature and light on plant growth. He also used it to look at the effect of poison and electric current on the growth of plants. The performance of this instrument was demonstrated throughout the world by Acharya J.C. Bose from 1914 onwards. When Jagdish Chandra Bose showed the experiment in Cambridge and Oxford, they were filled with wonder when they saw the excellent instruments that Jagdish Chandra Bose himself had made. No one had done work of this kind in biology. There are scores of equipments that Acharya J.C. Bose designed, and there are many that he fabricated himself. All these equipments testify the genius of a great Indian scientist whose work united in one man the fields of physics and physiology, and who found out more about plants than anyone else before him. Well, there is an interesting story about a demonstration that Bose gave in England on the day he wanted to show some new things that he had found out. He had come to the conclusion that plants can feel pain like animals, and when we pinch them, they suffer, and that they die in a few minutes after they are poisoned. Bose wanted to show experiments to prove these conclusions. A number of scientists and other leading men and women had gathered to hear him. Bose started the experiments by injecting poison into a plant. The plant should have shown signs of death in a few minutes. On the contrary, nothing happened. The learned audience started laughing. Even at this adverse moment, Bose showed admirable calmness. He thought quickly. The poison that he injected into the plant did not kill it. So he supposed that it would not hurt him also. With full confidence, he got ready to inject the poison into himself. At that instant, a man got up and confessed,
"Accept my defeat, Mr. Bose. It was I who replaced the poison with similar colored water."
Now Bose conducted the experiment again with real poison, and sure did the plant wither and die as expected. The patterns of plant growth recorded by J.C. Bose have been confirmed in recent years by much sophisticated computer-based image analysis systems. The biological significance of seasonal and diurnal variation in electrophysiology and growth patterns of plants became the subject matter of modern research in chronobiology. Chronobiology, the science of effects of time and rhythmical phenomena on life processes, as well as the subject of cybernetics, which bridges biology and engineering, medicine and agriculture. Another area which attracted the attention of Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose was about how water moves upward from the root to the aerial parts of plant body, especially in tall plants. Water that is transported all along the length of the stem is not just water. It is a solution of water containing various inorganic and organic components, and this is known as sap. That is the reason why it is known as ascent of sap instead of ascent of water. The logic of this experiment here is to find out which of the stem structures are involved in the transportation of sap. Look here. These are the xylem elements, the water-conducting tissue of plants, which are mainly responsible for the movement of water upwards. Among the four xylem elements, tracheids form a kind of continuous tubular system running from the root system to aerial branches, which provides tubular network of channels for the movement of water. The ascent of sap is caused by propagated hydraulic wave of contraction preceded by expansion, squeezing the sap forward. This boat-like appearance under the microscope is that of the tiny openings underneath the plant leaves called stomata. They open and close according to the metabolic needs of the plants. These tiny openings are the ports for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. These spores maintain a steady flow of water and minerals from the roots to the leaves. It is essentially the transpiration pull affected by action of stomata that pulls up water through the vessels in plants. Capillary forces play a crucial part in the process of ascent of sap. The primary intuition of Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose of plants as living organisms capable of intelligent behavior stands in the process of being completely justified. It is somewhat ironic that current developments in botany that had been foreseen by J.C. Bose more than 100 years ago, though they were consistently rejected during his lifetime. Acharya J.C. Bose retired from the Presidency College in 1915, but was appointed Professor Emeritus and was permitted to continue his research work. He gradually shifted his laboratory to his own house, which was situated next door to the Science College in Calcutta. 2 years later, that is in 1917, he succeeded in establishing a research center for himself just north of his house on the Acharya Prafulla Chandra Road, which was then known as Upper Circular Road in North Calcutta. The Bose Institute was founded on November 30th, 1917. He nurtured this institution as its director till his death in 1937. The research center, called the Bose Institute, is set up in buildings designed in the Mauryan style. Like J.C. Bose, the Bose Institute's areas of interest are wide and varied. Though the Bose Institute started with three original departments: botany, chemistry, and physics. Today, the Institute is engaged in research in the fields of plant sciences, structural biology, molecular biology, biomedical sciences, biotechnology, quantum mechanics, astrophysics, and condensed matter physics. A Center for Advanced Research on Astroparticle Physics and Space Sciences has been set up at the Darjeeling campus of the Institute. Recent augmentation include the establishment of a national facility on astroparticle physics and space sciences and a center of excellence in bioinformatics. And some 3 hours drive from the main campus of the Bose Institute at Kolkata. This is the Rural Biotechnology Training Center of Bose Institute at a village called Falta. And if you happen to sail for Andaman Islands from the port of Kolkata, you can catch a glimpse of this stately bungalow on the banks of the Ganges at village Falta, where Acharya J.C. Bose used to stay sometimes and reflect. There is also a J.C. Bose Biotechnology Innovation Center at Madhyam Gram and Shamnagar near Kolkata. The Bose Institute is equally recognized today as an important center for training PhD students and postdoctoral fellows. All of what is happening at the Bose Institute today would be quite unimaginable had not Bose dreamt big and worked tirelessly towards realizing them.